welcome to Miss Martin Muses. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses and Pub Crawl. It is our third hour of night 2 Pub Crawl, and none other than the one, the only, the man himself, Mark with a C.
Woo! What's up? What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here on Miss Martin Muses. I'm so excited. I was telling you backstage, I'm so happy you were able to make it, and we are ready to go, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking lovely this evening.
Oh, well, thank you. I fluffed my rose petals just for you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Oh, boy. Well, the topic that Mark with the C has chosen for tonight is pop culture. Because we can't talk about it enough because I think it permeates every aspect of our society. And I know this has been something that you have been doing on your YouTube channel, the Dark Council, and everything for I don't know what 5 years is this. How long have you been doing the YouTube thing?
Oh, it's been longer than 5 years at this point. It's been a while. It might even be up to 7 because I remember I usually measure this by like my son. Like when I first started, he was just a little squirt, and now he's almost as tall and as big as me, and I'm 6'5". So this kid is like 6'2" and everything. So this has definitely been about, yeah, he's going to be 15 this year. Yeah, it's about 7 years.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
From back when I was in my old place, when I was in the dark, literally in the dark, and I'm too dark to be in the dark. You know what I mean? So it's like I did those earlier videos. I swear, all you saw were my teeth. Whenever I was speaking, you have to really like look closely. But fortunately, I did something about the lighting, and people in the comment section used to always be like, "Invest in some light, man." So.
Okay, here you go. Well, I tell you, I'm starting to feel really old because I remember your son and you talking about him being that little. When you just said that he's almost as tall as you are, oh my, oh my gosh. Oh, I think we're all ready for the rocking chair by this point. Oh god. Well, before we continue on, let's say hi to everyone in the chat and everyone that'll be coming in on the replay. It is Corey Cochran. Thank you for being here. Rocky, the black dragon. Hello, everyone. He says, and pop culture, both on and off, changes culture, says Corey Cochran. Yes, it does indeed. And Matt Wilkins is here. Mark seems like a good guy, but that Yankees cap. Uh-oh, fighting words.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with anything but except that's where I was born. I'm not a super fan or anything like that. It's just you got to always rep the place where you come from. That's all that is.
Oh, well, there you go. And a name upside down is Jason. Has it really been that long? Yeah, I guess it has. My goodness gracious.
And shout out to Jason because, he's been in my comment section. He's always having something fairly intelligent to say. You know what I mean? No, he's always there with the great comments and he's been there for a long time. So, I really do thank you, Jay. I thank you for being there, brother.
Okay, well, excellent. Matt says the Mets are there too. Well, I suppose. I don't know anything about baseball. I feel terrible.
Got a Mets hat around here somewhere too.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, yeah. Well, pop culture. Maybe you could share with us a little bit about your history with pop culture, even back when Mark with a C was little Mark with a C.
Yeah. I've always been attracted to pop culture and entertainment and things like that. I was a very imaginative young boy when I was growing up. Me and my brother, my brother has since passed on. I've talked about that before. Rest in peace, Tommy. Love you always. And I do that. A lot of what I do is with him in mind as well. Him and my son are like my main inspiration. But definitely, when we were coming up, we were like those kids who were always in our minds all the time. When it was time to go to bed, we told our own stories. We actually called them the stories. My parents would be yelling at us, "Get to bed!" And we'd just be like, just always world building, in our minds. And a lot of that was inspired by, things like Star Wars. When we first saw, actually it was Star Trek first because that's what my parents were watching. They would watch Star Trek. And that really set off our imaginations about other worlds and other beings. We thought Mr. Spock was the best thing in the world. I had a Captain Kirk doll. He had a Mr. Spock doll. And, I mean, they were dolls, man. They weren't like action figures. They were the actual dolls,
I
and
had those.
yeah, with the actual clothes and everything. So, and Captain Kirk is one of my few heroes in life too. So, after that, it was just about, yeah, we can imagine these things too. So we started paying attention to sci-fi and comics. The first comic I ever was given was the Fantastic Four. So it was just, it was like a light switch. It just turned on the whole world away from where we were, because it wasn't. I didn't have like a terrible childhood, but it was kind of rough. I've talked about it before. I did have a kind of a rough go with my father. He was just a tough, old school New York City cop who grew up in the projects and everything. So he had some very strong feelings about the way life should be, but he was just a little bit too rough, a little bit too hard on us and stuff. So a lot of times it was easy for us to just kind of like retreat into our imagination and just go from there, you know. And I just paid attention to all of it, whether it was TV shows, movies, music. You hear me singing on a lot of my videos, for like
Mhm.
old songs and stuff like that, because it's all that stuff is in my mind and in my heart. And
Yeah.
that's the way I've always been. So sometimes when people see me in my videos, oh, yeah, what are you trying to get a record deal, bro? I have been this way since I was like 3 and 4 years old. And
Oh.
anyone who knows me will tell you that. My sister loves to laugh at me because when I used to clean up around the house, I was always performing, singing, being dramatic, things like that. It was fun to clean the house with me, she would always say. So, yeah.
No, I like your singing, and I've seen it even on Twitter every now and then when you serenaded "No One Does It Better" to Stieg that one time.
Yes, yes, with all my heart. I sent that out to Steve. Yeah.
No, no, and that's part of what makes you. I love the way that you talked about Star Trek, because that was a thing for me too. They had it. Had it in the afternoons on reruns. That's when I first started watching it in the late '70s as a little kid, and then of course Star Wars, I think, really
Yeah.
influenced a lot of us. And then we had like Ghostbusters, Aliens. The '80s were really the heyday of just some really amazing TV shows, a lot of amazing
Sure.
movies.
These things shaped so many lives, and sometimes I wonder if Gene Roddenberry, if George Lucas knows just
Mhm,
how vast your vision is or was.
mhm.
Did you touch so many people? When me and my brother would fight, if we're play fighting, one of us would always be doing the fight music from Star Trek. Dun, 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 dun. We just go at it with each other, and you know, it was great, man. And then Superman and Superman 2 came out, and it was just a great time to grow up
Mhm,
and feel good, and that's the difference. Pop culture, especially geek culture, so much of it made us feel good because it took us away.
mhm.
You know, you didn't have to be miserable. It was a great what if. It was all what if. It's like Marvel had a title, What If, but that's all sci-fi and sci-fantasy is. What if?
Mhm.
Dare to imagine, dare to dream, to go where no man has gone before.
Yeah.
And back then, of course, you didn't need to say and woman. It was understood. It's everybody, all of us. you
Yeah,
know
before everyone got too daggone sensitive. Yeah, well, I like that you said that, because it back then, it was what inspired. Because sometimes we think about the negative effect of pop culture, but there was an incredibly positive effect, especially the optimistic viewpoint of Star Trek. And,
yeah.
I think we all know the famous story about with, the, Uhura, the actress who played Uhura, meeting with Martin Luther King, where he was like, "No, this is great, it's inspiring." And uh, it changed in a good way. The it transformed, and those were the best parts.
Sure. I mean, let's face it, you have to be able to imagine it, to see it, to be able to strive for it. You have to have the vision first.
Mhm,
So if Nichelle Nichols, may she rest in peace,
mhm,
if she was there for everyone to see at a time where, the civil rights movement was going on and stuff like um, that was a challenge. That wasn't just a challenge to white America or anything like that. I think it was a challenge to the world, just to see the capability of an individual who other people would put into a box, just because of the way she looked automatically or
Mhm.
whatever. It was very important for everyone to see that people who looked like her could be beautiful, could be capable. And I understand what Martin Luther King was talking about. I mean, it was very timely for that to happen. I know
Mhm.
when the first time I saw Lieutenant Uhura, the only thing I was thinking is, damn, she's fine. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like she definitely set me on my path to manhood. You know? So
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I
yeah.
remember looking at her because the late 70s me, the just like, "Oh, she's so pretty," and I wanted
One
that
sec.
mini in her
One
makeup
sec.
and her
My son is
nails.
here. 1 minute. What's the
Oh,
matter,
no
kid?
problem.
You want to save money?
Huh?
You can mention the money.
Yeah, but we'll talk about it later, okay?
Here, I'm moving.
Huh?
I'm moving a walk.
Okay, be
How much is
careful.
left?
We'll talk about it later,
Oh,
son.
it's real fit.
Okay. All right.
It's so nice.
Okay. Okay.
The dad voice.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how it is. It's like, hey, he just busted in here like an interrogator. I want answers. I want answers now. It's like, hey, easy. We'll talk about it. But it's always something trivial, like when are we going to get some more juice? We're running low on juice. Okay.
It's like we'll get juice later.
Uh-huh.
Oh dear.
So what were you
Yeah.
saying? Sorry, dear.
Oh, no problem. No, I was just talking about how I liked her because also pretty ladies. As a little girl, y- you she helped you to manhood. For me, I was like, oh, look at her nail. Oh, I liked the way she looked. She looked so pretty, and those were the kind of things that we used to dress up our dolls with and our Barbies. Speaking of the whole Barbie phenomenon, that was really a part of our childhood as well for the girl, in that there was never any shame in being a beautiful woman.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing, because of course Star Trek started in the 60s, so in the 60s, I think men and women were probably at the height of their powers as men and women.
Hmm.
These men were allowed to be, like alpha and, just all of who we are, even with all of the faults and things like that. But they were also into style and stuff. They were all wearing ties and sports jackets and everything. And women were just so unbelievably sexy and strong, and they just seemed so confident in their womanhood.
Hmm.
It just seemed like nobody was really playing games, the whole between the sexes and things like that. Everyone seemed to know who they were, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about what is a woman,
Well,
and men are talking about I identify as a woman. It's just weird,
mhm. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like the way you say that because, yeah, the stereotype is that, well, women, they were, oh, you want to bring us back to the 50s, want to bring us back to the 60s and stuff. It's like, well, th- it seems to me that it takes away the power that women did have back then. I mean, it is true. It is a fact that there were still some things in true equality that needed to happen between the sexes, with access to universities, access to certain jobs and positions. And those kind of situations, but for the most part, there was that solid respect that for between the sexes, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think the fight for equality was just that. It was a fight for equality and equal opportunity, and just the ability to be able to have America live up to the promise of you know um, just the pursuit of happiness is something that should have been allowed for everyone. But I don't think, looking back on it, anyone was asking for preferential treatment. I don't think that anybody should have been asking for, just I don't know, a head start or anything like that.
Mhm.
Like, I know it's controversial, but I've said it in my videos. I just believe that the whole integration thing was kind of untimely at that time. Like, I don't want to disrespect the people who did that, but anytime the government gets involved to tell you you must do this now, um, that's not necessarily a good thing. I actually believe that humanity has the ability to evolve and to grow and to challenge one another, to do the right thing. And I kind of
Mhm.
think that we were moving in that direction. I think it kind of shook things up to kind of force things by law. I think that we would get there, but what, it's water under the bridge. It was what it was. And I do respect the people who fought for those things, because obviously it did push things along. And, we enjoy the benefits of that now, but it did kind of shake things up in a way that it's taken us a while to, we still have issues over that,
Mhm.
the way things were done. And I think that that is a lot of why we have the problems that we have today relating to each other, across
Yeah.
the different, yeah.
Well, and as someone who's spent most of my life in education, I can say that part of what they did was they were like, integrate, yay. And that was it. They just threw everyone together in these classrooms, and but there wasn't like talking, there wasn't preparing people, there wasn't, all the things. You just can't socially experiment on people. You've got to let them be human. You've got to let them get ready. You got to let them be honest and
Yeah.
express. And I think that the more honest we are, that also helps. And I personally feel that the pop culture stuff that we sometimes make fun of a little bit in the 80s, like those after school specials and some of those movies even, they were very honest and I think very fruitful.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, at least there was a semblance that somebody gave a damn about the kids back then,
Hmm.
because the after school specials, they talked about real stuff.
Hmm.
You could be watching G.I. Joe, and it was always at the end of every episode, they would give you a lesson,
Hmm.
and of course, we all know, what did they say? Thanks, Duke. Now we know, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. You know what I mean? It's like that's the way it always was. And of course, Schoolhouse Rock, literacy. It was a good thing, to
Hmm.
see that on TV somebody felt like they cared about us as children. I'm going to really date myself here, because there used to be a show, I believe, way back in the day called Wonderama, right? And it was on Wonderama, and I think it came out in New Jersey or something like that. And at the end of every episode, they would sing a song called "Kids Are People Too." And I don't even remember how the song went, but I remember there was a song called "Kids Are People Too." And it was basically just letting kids know that, we care about you and all of your mistakes and all of your insecurities. You didn't feel alone, like such a bonehead when you were growing up.
Oh,
At least you didn't feel like you were alone as a bonehead.
yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so sweet. I've never heard of that, but that sounds like an adorable song. And even like some of the maybe the darker stuff, there was always like hope. Like you had things like Rocky that was really gritty and really, down to earth. You saw the Philadelphia in, the slums and all those situations. Rocky really wasn't going anywhere, but then he goes the distance. He didn't even have to win. He had to go the distance, and you had those situations, and then the
Yeah.
Karate Kid.
And the thing about that, like Rocky and also the Karate Kid as well, is that those were stories about human spirit, you know.
Mhm,
And in Rocky, he even says it's not about how many times you get knocked down, but you can get knocked down and keep going and get back up and things like that. Those are things that are going to resonate with anybody. I don't care who you are. And that's the thing about back then. They didn't have to spell it out and spoon feed it, to every specific race or gender or sexuality. It was human spirit.
mhm,
And that's really, I think, where a lot of us found our love and our passion, for pop culture, for geek culture and things, because it spoke to the kind of people that we want to be, even if we're not that. So I didn't need to have Rocky look exactly like me, but man, my heart would be pumping,
mhm,
watching him, try to crawl his way back up, watching him come from the streets, and make something of himself and just have this restless spirit. Like, I gotta make it. I got, because this is all I got. You know what I mean? It's
mhm,
like, who can't relate to that? Who's not been tested in life? So you want to see things like that because it gives you something,
mhm,
and that's what we used to get back then. And it just feels so artificial now. And I think that's a lot of the reason why I actually got started talking about this so passionately, because I do worry about the next generation, the kids, what, like, exactly how they're perceiving this crap, that they're getting in their pop culture today.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there is for lack of a better word, a narcissism that is permeating a lot of the entertainment, because you had things like Rocky where you were like going beyond yourself and building, getting back up and giving inspiration to people. Now it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, and cry
Right.
because my life sucks. I don't know. Like if Rocky were made today, I don't know. He would just sit around and go, my life sucks. No one loves me.
Yeah.
um, and
Yeah. It's a totally different animal now. You
mhm,
know, studies in I guess studies in character now are really marginalized. Like I said, they're not they don't deal with universal issues anymore. You know, everything has to be race specific or gender specific, you know, and that really does take away from it. You know, like I said before, because you know, Rocky, I think, you know, women can watch that, you know, different races can watch that, and anybody who's a human being who's in touch with that part of themselves can understand what he was going through, and in other, you know, other shows as well.
mhm.
But you know, now, like I said, they really are talking down to a lot of people, and they're having us connect on like the lowest common denominators. And you know, like I said, I really worry about what that's going to mean for later generations if we don't like really try to push back on that.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
one thing that I have found that changes, because we had Karate Kid where you had Mr. Miyagi being a father figure, a very strong father figure to this boy who had lost his father. And um, nowadays, it seems like fatherhood, with very few exceptions, is mocked. Something that's not only just devalued, but it's something that's ridiculed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that has been you know, my experience too. Once again, that's a big you know, motivating factor for me, you know, because
Hmm.
you just started to see it being reflected in the so-called art, where it seemed like the roles of the father was being diminished.
Hmm.
And you know, I mean, I love The Simpsons and everything, but you started to see it in Homer Simpson. You started to see it in Al Bundy, and I
Hmm.
love those shows. You know, but it was just like you got to have a balance. Like, of course, back in the day, you actually had the nerve to have shows like way back called things like Father Knows Best or Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. Like all of these things, like before our time, but they were actual shows. You know, where in the 50s and the 60s, you had that. You know, this
Hmm.
idea that the father was there. He was at, you know, the head of the household. But in most of those shows, if you really watch them, they didn't know what to do without their wives. You know, their
Hmm.
wives were right there to say, you know, Ward, I think you should talk to the beaver. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And things like that. So they were working as a team, you know, and the father was there at the head because, I mean, somebody had to be.
Hmm.
But also, I think it's man's nature to want to be a provider and to want to be, you know, a leader in his home, and, you know, someone who just takes care of his family.
Hmm.
And, you know, I think it works that way and it should work that way. But like I said, I started to see it start to look a little bit different, you know, as
Hmm.
time went on. You know, when you get to be a little bit older and stuff, you can look back and say, wow, that's been quite a progression there, where, you know, it used to be that men were valued. And now you can't really see too much of this in pop
Hmm.
culture. I'm not saying it's not there at all, because of course I don't watch everything, but, you know, the overwhelming majority of it, the role of the father has been greatly diminished. And that's in our system as well. You know, as somebody who's been through a divorce and everything, that was quite a wake up call, you know, when I went through that, because I realized that family court has nothing to do with family, and
Hmm.
they don't care, you know, for any father who's been through it out there, who try to stay in their children's lives and stuff. It could be a real uphill battle, you know, especially if you're dealing with a significant other who kind of like buys into that, you know,
Hmm.
you're just the father, you can't offer anything. You know, sometimes it can be a real hassle.
Hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about those situations, and I do sympathize for that. And well, what would you say to people that might maybe gaslight a little bit and say, "Well, it's just TV, it's just movies, it's just music, it's it's just entertainment. It's not actually affecting culture. Like, why does it bother you if this is how it's being showed? What would you say to someone?
I would say, what TV show did you hear that on? You know what I mean? Because that's what they are. They're programs. They've been conditioned to think that way because we went through the 70s, 80s, and even some of the 90s where those were the talking points. It's just entertainment. That's all it is. But that nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, there used to be something called, what was it? They did something called Operation Paperclip, or I think it was Operation Paperclip or Mockingbird, where they were showing. It's been shown that the government definitely used the media and TV shows to influence people. What do you think commercials are about? Commercials are not there to entertain you. They're there to sell you something, to persuade you. So the programming, I mean, think about the words here. The programming is also there to sell something. Remember when Friends was on and everybody wanted to have their hair like Jennifer Aniston?
I was one.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why not? But no, but yeah, and everything that she wore, everything that the celebrities wear. Remember when MTV came out? When they used to play music, they would have The Real World, and The Real World would play music in the background, and at the end of the program, it would say, tonight's episode was featuring music by Red Hot Chili Peppers or something like that. You know what I mean? Go out and buy it. So all pop culture all TV has ever been is selling things to us, whether it's products or goods or services, or whether it's lifestyles. So it's naive to think that anything is just entertainment, especially in today's landscape. When you see some of the societal ills that we have going on, you have to ask yourself, if your kids are flipping the hell out, what are your kids watching? What are they listening to? At least back in the day, if they listened to the radio, you could hear what they were listening to. These days, you don't have to hear it anymore because they just put it directly into their ears. So they have these voices and these songs and these tunes and these melodies that are constantly bombarding their senses. And all of this is science. Every tune has an effect. Sometimes you can hear a sad piece of music and it'll make you feel sad. You can hear something more upbeat. It'll make you feel happy. Everything is influencing us,
Yeah.
So when you see a group of kids who tend to act out more violently, you have to ask yourself, what's going on with their pop culture? What are they ingesting? So, I mean, you can't tell me that it's just entertainment, because I spent the majority of my life really not speaking that much. I mean, you can't tell now, but I've talked about that in my videos before. When I was growing up, I didn't talk a lot at all, because I was always watching. I was always listening. I was always thinking. I wrote in a journal, so yeah, at this point in my life, I just know what I know. I don't know everything, but what I do know, I know.
Yeah. Wow. Well said. And then I think we all had that Luke Skywalker moment with The Last Jedi. The people argue it happened with The Force Awakens, when it went from kind of programming, like you said, where they actually then took the childhood heroes from those 70s and 80s movies and just started breaking them apart and humiliating them on the screen. I don't know if you've had that moment that I did in The Last Jedi, where you just were watching, and I was watching in horror. I was like, what am I looking at?
Yeah. Oh my God. That was, I don't think I've been more infuriated in a movie, in my life. I'm thinking back. I mean, no, that was so unnecessary and so deliberate, and I think that's the thing that really pissed me off about that, is because Star Wars practically writes itself. You know what I mean? Like, you have to try to screw up something as bad as they did that. I mean, we wanted, it was very simple. They act like, oh, you guys just wanted to see Luke Skywalker be a god. Hell no, that's not what it was. It's like, but getting Luke, Han, and Leia together on screen wasn't that much to ask for.
No.
Seeing them be happy before the conflict. Of course, there's going to be conflict, but each of those characters were introduced to us broken. Like, the last time we saw them, it was in Return of the Jedi. They were clapping, they were happy, and
Mhm.
everything. Of course there was going to be, something in the future that was probably going to shake things up again. But by the time they got back to us, and keep in mind, this is something like a 40-year wait.
Mhm.
And this is what you give us? You give
Yeah.
us Han and Leia broken up, Luke is secluded somewhere, he turns off the Force, whatever he did.
Mhm.
Who the hell thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, it was a
Did you
dirty old man. Basically, he had dirty old creepy uncle vibes to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like you were part of a group of people, and nobody said, I don't think this is a good idea, Kathleen.
Mhm.
Ryan. Well, actually, Mark Hamill said he tried,
Yeah.
but he still played the role. You know what I mean? I mean, they all did, but it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And like I said, the thing that got me the most is that it had to be deliberate. And the
Mhm.
more I heard Ryan Johnson speak, the more I realized it was deliberate. They did it on purpose,
Mhm.
to mess with us. They resented the fans.
Yeah. And they resented I almost felt like they resented goodness. It's like, how dare you wanna be inspired, you stupid, stupid little people. Uh, it
Yeah.
yeah, and I thought they were done with that because we've been seeing some positive things. It's been going back and forth, and then the Indiana Jones happened, which I did not see, but I know you did, the latest one.
Whew. Yeah, yeah. And there's an example too of just how bad you can get your heart broken, because even with everything that's happened, after all of these years of disappointment and insults and being slapped in the face, I remember writing on Twitter, "I want to believe." When I
Mhm.
saw the trailer, I wrote, "I want to believe." Harrison, I want to believe. So of course, I'm not going to apologize for going to see it, because I know a lot of people, we've taken this attitude now in certain, parts of the fandom, where if you spend any money on any of this, you're a traitor. And I do understand that frustration. I get it, but at the same time, I'm not a hypocrite, and I have to be true to myself. And I needed to see this thing through, to the end. I love Indiana Jones. I really respect Harrison Ford and stuff. And I was really hoping that they could pull this thing off, So yeah, I never called for a boycott of anything. And I go, like I said, I go way back to Last Jedi and all that stuff, Solo. But yeah, so yeah, I went to go see it first night,
Mhm.
and once again, they stuck the knife into me, and I have no one but myself to blame. I
Yeah.
never was like, I'm just going to go see this for my subs so they don't have to see it. I didn't do any BS like that. It's just something I wanted to do,
Mhm.
but unfortunately I got what I got, and I I gave a warning to people, because what they did with the Indiana Jones is something that you cannot unsee. It's a terrible thing if you grew up watching, Raiders and Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. Um, Once you see this, it's like I don't know, Last Jedi all over again. It's like, damn, I didn't need to see my hero this way. I never thought that somebody would have thought it was a good idea to put him out there like that. I never thought that Harrison Ford would have played himself that way. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, there it is. So that's another one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wanna make it clear that I'm also with you too, because I've actually never boycotted. I will spend money on what I wanna spend on, I will see what I wanna see, and I will praise what is praiseworthy and curse what is, curse-worthy. The reason I personally didn't see Indiana Jones 5 was just because of the memory of what happened with Luke Skywalker. I had heard enough to know that that's what they were gonna do, so I just didn't want that image in my head. It wasn't because
Yeah.
I was, uh, for any other reason, that was just me protecting myself, and it's, it's difficult, but it is I don't think that they also realize that by tearing down like Luke Skywalker and Indiana Jones and Han Solo, they were also taking away our female hero, because I was almost as upset by what they did to Princess Leia in the sequel trilogy, because she was just such a she was beautiful, lovely, that worked together. Yes, there was all that tension, but that was part of the romance, and to see her just become this sterile, that awful scene where she slaps Poe in The Last Jedi across and I just was like, I just can't believe that I'm seeing Princess Leia too. So they've taken away our women as well.
Yeah, Leia, that her that broke my heart because there was just one quick scene, and I think The Last Jedi, she didn't even say anything. It was just one scene of her like kind of like wringing her hands,
Mhm,
and looking like terrified, and she was upset. And it was just a quick cutaway to
mhm,
whatever scene was going to happen, but she's just sitting there just like in dread and everything. And I'm like, this just sucks so bad. It's like I
mhm,
never wanted to see her this way. There's no reason why she should have been presented that way. Like they
yeah,
would like seriously anti-family, because you got to understand the way Star Wars played out, the original, is that all of them came from terrible situations.
mhm,
So Luke, we saw what happened with him. His aunt and uncle got killed and stuff, and he had to set out on his adventure. Leia, her whole planet got destroyed in front of her face.
mhm,
Han obviously was a loner. All he had was Chewie. And these people found each other, and they found family, and they found love. So for these people to come along, how many decades later, to rip them apart,
mm,
knowing that all of us came from some form of situation like that, where we retreated into this universe, into this world for a reason. Like I said, it didn't have to necessarily be that it was something traumatic, but obviously something was appealing to belonging to this.
mhm,
So when we came back decades later and we see them miserable and torn apart, it's like there are people who got through terrible diseases, who got through life and death situations, holding on to these characters, and
mhm,
they went and destroyed all of it.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that is unforgivable. They didn't even think about that,
yeah.
you know?
They
So, yeah.
they they just well, I a lot of reasons people were saying that they did that on purpose because I think that there's something sadistic in them, to be honest, but also I think that they are trying to engineer, people's attitudes toward certain things, and that the hero, what people like Luke Skywalker, Orlando, I mean, gosh, I loved, Lando Calrissian. I guess they didn't quite ruin him in the last movie because he was still kind of the same, but it was too late by that point. But
Yeah.
it's like uh, they I don't know. It's hard to
Lando was like coming into the party and realizing that all your friends left already.
Yes.
That's what Lando, it's like you coming into this and it's like, where is everybody? Oh, there's Chewie. Hi, Chewie. But other than that,
Yeah,
and then to realize that they're all dead,
yeah.
that's not cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, that's really depressing when you think about it. Well, oh my goodness. Well, we've talked about the past, we've talked about the present, and you mentioned maybe talking about the future of pop culture. What do you
Yeah.
see go I don't what do you see in the future? I mean, it could be good. I mean, there's lots of possibilities. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
No, there's no possibility. No, let me stop. No, you know what? The only possibility I'm seeing these days are the independent creators. The ones who are exercising more inspiration or inspired works, things like that. I think that it's become such an industry and such a business that people are afraid to take a risk.
Mhm,
It's like I saw some article recently where they were talking about why doesn't Hollywood produce any more young stars, like future stars, like legends and things. Like we're seeing, Tom Cruise is in his what is he, almost 60, if he's not 60
mhm,
already. We just saw what Harrison Ford did, 80 years old. You know, um, they're not really investing in wanting to take a chance, with these up and comers anymore, because they want a sure thing and they have to check all of these boxes. That's the reason why you have so much race swapping that's going on right now, because they don't want to risk anything. They don't want to risk original characters. So let's take old characters and throw a fresh paint job on them.
mhm.
So But unfortunately that's artificial and it's very uninspired, and I think that's why we're seeing the box office look the way it is now, except recently, of course, the whole Barbenheimer thing. People are making a ton of money off that, and of course everyone's happy, but for the most part, even that's just manufactured stuff. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like Oppenheimer, I didn't really get into too much. I mean, I saw some of it, but it's flash in the pan. But I like to think that the young ones who are coming up, like, I know that there are talented people, imaginative people in the world. It's just a matter of, are they going to get a shot to share that with the world? Because human beings are always going to be human beings, and we're always going to be imaginative. We're always going to
Hmm.
be visionaries. So it's just a matter of who's going to spot these people and give them a shot. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If we could do that, if we could, go into some of these school of the arts that's around, and like really cultivate that talent, well, then maybe we could see another wave of creativity.
That's a good point. I spent most of my life in classical music, and that's what I am working with. I'm working with orchestras, and that's the one area where we are still allowed actually to still inspire to the greatness, because there's only one way to play orchestra. There's only one way to play Mozart. There's only one way, and there's and the literature that's out there, and so that's the only area I think where you can actually be allowed into the creative areas, because I know that in the case of drama, theater, filmmaking, they've a lot of the gatekeeping. You have to do the certain box. You have to be this kind of edgy thing. So it does seem a bit insurmountable as far
Well,
as the major pop culture.
well, how do you feel about AI? Especially coming from, like, orchestra and things like that. Do you feel that that is threatened at all by the rise of AI?
No, because as far as orchestra and all that, it will never be threatened, because even today you are not finding people that can rival the great musicians. And the reason why there are orchestras is because you do need to hear it live with real human beings. So,
Hmm.
are you wondering about the composing aspect of it? I guess that
Hmm.
AI could compose. Yeah, no, because AI cannot compose like Mozart or Beethoven or Bach or Schubert or I Palestrina or any of them. And but I think that classical music is niche enough that that's also why it's kind of being left alone, because you can't say classical music is pop culture at all, or opera. It's just not. Um, but well, and all of their
But it's in
music's
Bugs Bunny cartoons.
well, yes. Oh, actually, you're right. Kill the
Ah.
rabbit, Wagner.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and like I said, that's what I'm saying. I think that's the one area that has remained untouched, because it's not a threat. It, the whole so-called woke culture is not being threatened if someone's playing, Fur Elise on the piano. So I don't know, but from what you're saying, do you think that the indie sphere, though, because I'm not sure how the mainstream, like to get into the schools, to get into the art schools, to get into UCLA and all of those, I don't think that's possible for true creativity to be allowed to thrive.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one, but like I said, I do believe in like the human spirit, and how it cultivates or how it manifests itself creatively. So
Hmm.
I know that it's out there, you know, but I just think that, just like anything else, industry gets in the way.
Hmm.
Whether it's entertainment industry, whether it's the medical industry, because you hear doctors voicing their frustration, a lot,
Hmm.
especially these days we're in now, big pharma and all that stuff. But yeah, the money is really messing it up,
Hmm.
for free thinking, and it's bad right now, as far as being an individual and cultivating individual thought, and being able to encourage people to take a risk. Like I said, everybody just wants that sure shot, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think that kind of squashes a lot of it. It's
Yeah.
going to take fearlessness, to be able to cut through stuff like that. So, for example, for my part in all of this, my little channel and stuff like that, I really make it a point to not hold back, with the things that I think, you know,
Mhm.
uh, and I always encourage people to, I mean, if I'm right, if I'm wrong, whatever, I don't expect to be right all the time, not even most of the time. But I think that people are really limiting themselves these days. You'd be surprised, and well, you wouldn't, but how many people get into the comment section and say things like, you know, I really want to say something, but I'm not going to because blah, 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 because this, because that. Man, don't hold back, you know? Don't hold
Mhm.
back. If you're a decent person or a decent human being, don't worry. Oh, I might be seen as racist. Well, are you? Well, if you're not, speak, man. Don't be afraid. It's like, I'm here, I'm black. I get called racist all the time. You know what I mean? For saying things like, but I'm not worried about it because I know that I'm not, you know? And it's like anybody who spends any amount of time talking to me would know this, so but you get it both ways too. You could be seen as racist, you could be seen as, something, whatever the opposite of that is, apologist, whatever. People are always going to see you the way they want to see you,
Mhm.
but all you can do is represent yourself. And guess what? That's what you're here to do. That's what makes you interesting.
Hmm.
Everybody can't like you. As a matter of fact, that was one of the first videos that I did. It was called "Not Everybody Has to Love You,"
Hmm.
and that's it.
Yeah. Well, because first of all, people are going to think what they think about you anyways. Yeah, I found if I could find a way to change the way people think about me, I'll be on my big tour around the world with my $1 billion best-selling book. People, you cannot change anyone but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right. Like, for
yeah.
example, looking at you now, I think you're a lovely rose. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So, yeah, yeah. And I don't think anybody would disagree with me.
Oh,
So,
well, thank you. I always joke I'm
mhm.
actually really a serial killer being behind prison bars using the library at the at the penitentiary. No, I'm not. Uh,
So charming.
I fooled you all. No, but I'm a human. We're all human, and but I think part of it also you need to form your conscience, and that doesn't mean like if you're wrong, like not apologizing. We none of us are perfect, and listening to people, and it's but as far as especially people that I think when they accuse you of things online, there's usually something else going on. They don't know you, like the people in your comment section, for example. As you said, you're not whatever they're calling you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anybody, like I said, who's been, on my channel or whatever, know that I pretty much toy with people like that.
Mhm,
It's like I have but one rule when it comes to that: never take it seriously. Never. You know
mm,
what I mean? So you're not going to see me get all in a huff about something somebody says in the comment section. My first thought is, how do I make this person just look stupid? You know what I mean?
oh boy.
Because yeah, and a lot of
Yeah.
times it's easy.
Mhm. Well, yeah, and I think that's a good point that you can't get too sensitive because then you just drive yourself mad. You just
Mhm.
be in a fetal position all night. Oh my gosh.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no.
No, that's a really good point. That's maybe that's something to be said about what we're doing on YouTube is part of us being part of the future. I think you touched on it a bit at the beginning here about yeah, maybe that can help influence pop culture and even if it just reaches one person, you just never know.
Well, sure. I know, for example, rolling with the Dark Council here, is something that we did specifically, and I know that we came together kind of like the Avengers or Voltron, whatever what does the Majinai say, a Devastator. We kind of formed like that,
Mhm.
But what it is I know when I first got started on YouTube, it was pretty much a situation where uh, Disney already started telling people what black people want, what black people need. They, just speaking for everybody,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, wait a minute now. We got YouTube, and YouTube's tagline used to be broadcast yourself, you know? So my message from the very beginning for Disney, when I started talking about that stuff, because I was talking about stuff before then, but it was, I can speak for myself. I don't need you or anybody else speaking for me, because first of all, you're speaking wrong. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like what you're saying is not accurate. What you're doing is you're using me. It's like you're using people like me to shield yourself from the righteous criticism of those people who are spending money on your product. If I say, or if somebody says that we don't like Rose Tico as a character, you don't get to turn around and say, well, we've got Finn. Don't you people see what we're doing here? We're giving you diversity. You're supposed to like that. No, listen, I am, part of that diversity that you're talking about. Your writing sucks. You know what I mean? So from
Yeah.
the very beginning, I was doing that. But then it occurred to me that they don't focus, or they won't even acknowledge voices like mine. It's like what they wanted to do was acknowledge middle-aged white guys, right? And they wanted to characterize them as being angry, living in your mother's basement, white guys, right? So
Mhm.
it's just like, hold up, because at that time, I was communicating with everybody in this, in this space here. So it's like what you're saying is not true, and I've always been a part of this culture, so I know that it's not true. So I wanted to smash that whole narrative,
Yes.
but it's been hard because, like I said, they don't want to focus on those voices. They want to stifle those voices so they can try to categorize it as being just what they say it is. So I realized I would have to speak a little bit louder. I'd have to be a little bit more flamboyant, so like I said, that's where a lot of the over the top stuff, the shenanigans, the singing, all of that came in, and the mockery, because I was trying to mock Kathleen Kennedy at the time.
Mhm.
So, when I was reading articles or whatever, and I was Ryan Johnson, I would always do a like exaggerated voice, for Ryan Johnson, or for J.J. Abrams, just to make them feel stupid, because I know they watch us no matter what they say. So
Oh,
I was
I
trying to
think
make it
Brian
hard for
Johnson
them
for
to ignore
sure.
us.
Yeah.
Yes.
The part of me was like, was that really exaggerated, Ryan Johnson, what you just did? I'm not so sure.
I,
That was a little too
I know.
accurate.
Right, but but that's what it's been, like in this in this space here, because I think on my videos I was saying from the very beginning, those people who are ignorant, who shouldn't be speaking, are the ones that speak the loudest,
Mhm.
and those of us who know better are going to have to speak a little bit louder. We're going to have to speak a little bit more, because we can't have these people speaking for us.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of what motivated me, to do what I'm doing, just because someone's got to put some reality out there, and that's on all of us. If you know better, you need to speak up, because there's a lot of idiots out here who are speaking in our name, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, what you said also speaks to me because, well, I'm a woman, and I cannot tell you how many times they're like, "Finally, women are getting their representation. We're speaking for all women," and it just infuriates me. It's like you're not speaking for me. Um,
Right.
and of course, the whole idea that women were mono, right? Every single woman thinks exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
It's incredibly insulting, and to speak, with women, what our issue is, the so-called, the patriarchy. I can't think of anything more patriarchal than someone, especially a bunch of men, and it usually is men, telling me women are all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
think that I think most women uh I think most men and women realize that we work well together, even if we drive each other crazy,
Mhm.
at times and everything. I think the best thing, a woman, actually several women have ever said to me is, I need you, you know,
Mhm.
and I would say the same thing. It's the best thing I
Right.
could ever say, to a woman is, I need you. It's good to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
to know that, we work together. This world is crazy out here. It can be scary.
Mhm.
We need each other.
Yeah.
But the thing about life is especially this pop culture thing.
Mhm.
Hey Fletch,
Yeah.
thanks. What's up, Orange Hat?
Okay.
And Dawn and Soul Assassin and Biggles. But yeah, I just think that it takes a lot more energy to hate than to love. And evidence of that is how many billions of dollars are spent in this warped pop culture that we have now, that's trying to make us hate each other. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like when we go out into the world and we work together and we go to school together and things like that, we find tons of things that we have in common. We don't always have to be lovey-dovey and, oh, I love you, you love me, but we
Mhm.
definitely end up being on a more, we find that common ground. It
Mhm.
isn't until you turn on the news, until you turn on the internet, and they give us so many reasons for us to hate one another, and a lot of us form our opinions by that, by what we see in this ridiculous, twisted pop culture that we have now.
Mhm.
And then you realize how much money is being poured into it to make us feel this way. That's why I say, I can tell that things have changed from when we used to watch Star Trek, back in the day, and we used to feel good, or we used to feel challenged watching the Twilight Zone, and Rod Serling would come out and he would give a little monologue and stuff. Imagine this, imagine that. What does it take for you to turn against your neighbor? There were a lot of Twilight Zone episodes that dealt with
Mhm.
things like
That was
that.
a great,
And
yeah, I know the one you're talking about. That's one of the best ones. Yeah.
yep, I love
Uh,
it. Yeah.
yeah. Just a second. I want to get the super chat. Thank you, Fletcher Williams. I suck at games channel for $1.99. Mark is the man. Preach, brother, with 2 thumbs up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
still getting used to that. These super chats. It's it's fun. And thank you, Word Chat Reviews, as well. Thank you so much. I do appreciate you, Fletcher, for helping support the channel, and everyone in the chat. Please give me give a special like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Mark with a C. Well,
Thank
we're
you.
yes. If you like the kind of truth you're hearing here, there's plenty more over on his channel, and you will definitely get it. And of course, is is the home of the Dark Council permanently now on Fatal J's channel? Is
Yeah.
it, does it go around? Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, please make sure you're subscribed to him so you can catch the Dark Council. Gravy D, thank you so much for the $2 super sticker. It's a little kitty cat waving with hearts. Thank you so much. I have a sleeping kitty cat right next to me right now. Thank you so much. And we are now, before we go into our pub crawl game, which we do here at Miss Martin Muses, do you have anything else, maybe something that you haven't had a chance to say, or any parting words on the topic that you would like to share with the audience?
Just keep your eyes on our children, because that is what this pop culture is engineered to target these days. If it's one thing that I think frustrates me the most, is that people seem to think that kid stuff means that you just don't look at it, you don't pay attention to it, it's just for kids. That's something that we're hearing that refrain a lot. Oh, what do you care about it for? It's just for kids. But I made the point on last night's Dark Council, if they came to your neighborhood and put up a drug den or a crack den, and put on the top of the building, this is just for kids, what kind of guardians would we be? If we just said, okay, it's a crack house, but it's just for kids, let's just leave it alone. No, you got to always ask questions, and from what I can tell, everything these days, because of course the kids are indeed the future,
Mhm.
so it seems like our enemies have recognized the power of that before we do.
Mhm.
We just like put the kids in front of the TV, in front of the computer, and walk away. But recognize that you're putting your kids in front of your enemies and walking away, because the devil is in the details, you know, and they
Mhm.
don't sleep. They don't take a break. You need to look around and see what's going on with these kids. You need to see the rates of self-harm and depression. I talk to doctors all the time. These things are going through the roof, and there's a reason for it. We
Mhm.
must protect them. So every time I get a chance, I say this. When we talk about what is it, independent creators and stuff like that, I know a lot of independent creators are making the kind of things that they want to see. But at some point, you have to make things specifically with the children in mind, where the children are safe, to let their imaginations grow. The same as we were talking about earlier, how a lot of us got into Star Trek and, and Star Wars and everything through our imaginations and comics and things like that. These things should be safe from all of this contemporary, all of this stuff that's going on today, where they have to inject all of these wild ideas of sexuality. They need for kids to see that men dress up like women and things like that. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to people who do that in their lifestyle, but I just feel like leave the kids out of it. And when you
Mhm.
start bringing kids in it, I have to start questioning your motivation. So I just wanted to nail that. Just to bring that home. If there's one thing I want to get across to people, please watch out for the kids.
Mm. Yeah, amen. Absolutely. Um, I can't add anything else to that. All right. Well, this roll seven. This is something that was put together by myself, Stieg, and also tested by both of my lovely parents. It is 20 questions, and we roll a d20 7 times with 7 open-ended questions. And I encourage the people in the chat to also participate. So let's do our first roll here. It is Mark. What's the one thing you can't live without?
Wow. The one thing I can't live without? I would say my functioning heart.
Oh, yeah. Well, I always say, usually, besides, of course, family, Jesus, whatever your religion is, that's a given. Yeah, because everyone always wants to say Jesus or something. I'm like, that doesn't count. Okay, it's got to be something else.
Yeah. I learned that playing video games. Yeah, I think I was playing Mortal Kombat, and my character got the heart torn out or something, and it just collapsed. And I was like, the game's over, I guess. And I think that's life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, college football, Biggles wants you to say him.
Well, that goes without saying.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a given. That's like Jesus. That's like, your
Yeah.
loved ones, your mother. Yeah, of course it's. Alrighty. Okay, next roll. What's your favorite TV show and why?
All right. Wow.
Yeah, you have to choose one. That's what makes it tricky.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have to say, oh, you know what though? Excuse me. Actually, I'm tempted to say Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something I discovered pretty late in life was Gunsmoke. Believe it or not, Gunsmoke, the old Western.
Yeah.
Matt Dillon. That show really hits me hard. For some reason, like I like Marshall Matt Dillon is the kind of man that I think every man should want to be. You know what I mean? Like that, the type of man. He doesn't compromise on what he believes in. You could tell sometimes the way he's played, sometimes he doesn't want to do things, but he has to do it. He knows that somebody has to do it, and nobody else is going to do it except him, and I really love that. I love his sense of sacrifice. He puts his personal life on the back burner, and of course, as parents, sometimes we can relate to that, so man, Gunsmoke, yeah, I'm going to say that one, even though I discovered that pretty late in life, because from him comes like heroes like Captain Kirk, and things like that. So yeah, I think it started with him. So yeah.
Okay, Gunsmoke. Well, dang it! Now you're making me want to rewatch some of those. Yeah, those old shows were great.
Especially the beginning, like the first few seasons. After it went like an hour long in color and stuff. Well, you could take or leave those, but those first seasons really hit hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone watch Gunsmoke. There we go. Okay, what fictional place would you most like to visit and why?
Huh. What fictional place? I don't even know if it had a name, but I spent a lot of time reading Charlie Brown, reading Peanuts, comic strips and stuff. I have pretty much all of them, accumulated and stuff. And I just love that neighborhood. I love that feel. Like I spent a lot of time reading those comics. Like I probably related to Charlie Brown way too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah. So I kind of like that. I kind of like that world and everything.
Okay.
So believe it or not, it's very simplistic, but it's also very philosophical. The world that Charles M. Schulz created. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think it has a name. I'll just call it, Charlie Brown World. That's you're right. That's very cool stuff. And
Where
with the dog.
you get to be a child forever,
Mhm,
and you have kids there who might get on your nerves. They might be cruel and stuff, but they're your kids. You know them. You know.
mhm.
So yeah, I like that.
Excellent. And the teachers are going wah wah.
Because that's all it means anyway when you're a kid. Wah 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 wah. My mom still talks to
Exactly.
me, and I'm like wah 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 wah. You know.
Oh boy. All right. If you could travel back in time, when would you go?
Uh, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to get a little bit sappy here because there's only one place I would go back to, and that would be the last time I saw my brother. And
Mm,
that was at my son's first birthday party. And my brother was a cop in New York. He was a first responder at 9/11. You know, and
mhm,
he was a wild guy. Me and him were. I always say we were cut from the same crazy cloth. Because there are certain things that I'll say that only he would get, and vice versa. So we were at my son's first birthday party, and I remember he had come, across 2 states to be there, and he had to be to work, the next day and everything. And I remember, we were just opening, just real quick, we were opening up my son's presents, and he had to leave, you know, and you get so caught up with everything. So he was like, "Okay, I'm going to leave now. I got to be to work." I'm like, "Okay, see you later." That could have been the last time we ever spoke, but it turns out that my car was blocking his car in the driveway. So he came back in. He was like, "You're blocking me," and everything. So I was like, "Okay." So I went out with him, and I just told him, "I know, you coming here meant a lot because I know you got to be up tomorrow and everything. And thank you so much for coming." And I just gave him a big old hug, and that's something uncharacteristic,
mhm,
for me and my brother. We're just dudes, But I
mhm,
gave him a big hug. He drove this souped up Mustang, and he liked to show off. So
mhm,
I, gave him his hug. He got into his Mustang, and I know he used to like for people to watch him, so I just watched him drive off and everything. And he's so crazy. He had the what was it? The horn from Dukes of Hazzard put on his car. You will never see a black man riding through Brooklyn doing da, 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 da,
Oh,
da, da, da,
I
da,
was
da,
gonna
you
say,
know.
oh my gosh.
But that's my brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I watched him and everything, and I had no idea that was the last time I was going to see him. You know,
Mm,
so that's I would go back to that time. I'd probably hug him a little bit longer.
mm. Wow.
I think these questions are supposed to be humorous,
Yeah, I was about ready. You were
but
supposed to
but
say like you know, the Romans and 300. No.
this is the kind of guy I am, and there's only one answer for me if you ask me a question like that. So
No,
I'm afraid of
understood.
these next questions now.
Well, yeah. No, I mean that's very moving, and I've heard your brother's story too. I mean, may he rest in peace. He was a really special guy.
Yeah, he was crazy.
Okay, well, all right. Let's have something a little lighter here. Okay, if you could have dinner with one famous person, who would it be?
Ooh, all right. Now this is dangerous because they say that you don't want to meet your heroes sometimes.
Hmm.
All right, but I gotta say William Shatner jumps into my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I told you Captain Kirk was one of my first heroes. And he seems like he always tells it like it is and things. And he just seems like the kind of guy where I wouldn't be able to say anything, but you know what I mean? Just to be in his presence. Uh I just yeah, I just kind of like that. I like I said, his and I see some of the things, if that is him talking on Twitter and stuff, like I like the way his mind works
Hmm.
and things like that. So I think that would be a pretty cool thing to do, to meet William Shatner and just tell him thanks for being a hero of mine. One of the few.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Shatner's the goat. Yeah, he's a man, and he'll always be the real Captain Kirk. Yeah. Well, that's moving.
absolutely.
Yeah, Don. Yeah, we love our very precious
Much
times.
love, Dawn.
Yeah.
I met Dawn. It wasn't last year now, right? It was the year before Dawn, and
Mhm.
she's just the sweetest person,
Mm.
you know. So a true New Yorker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What would you do with $1 million?
Um, I don't know. Hookers, drugs, strip clubs. It would be gone by the end of the week, I'm sure. And I would party hard, boy. Woohoo! Talk about I would be, doing karaoke. I'd be a mess. I'd just be a mess.
Oh dear. A night on New York. These little town
Mhm.
blues are melting away. It's a
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God. It's good. It's good that I'm broke. Let's just put it that way.
okay. Oh gosh. All right, and then let me see. Oh, what's the most annoying question you've ever been asked?
Um,
Besides this
it
one.
might seem, was that?
Besides this one.
Well, it's two, but I'm over the how's the weather up there question. That's just some
Mhm.
dumb stuff that people like to ask tall people. But probably the most annoying question would be uh I guess probably are you happy? You know what I
Oh.
mean?
Mhm.
Like that's kind of, cuz I don't even know what that means,
Mhm.
honestly. You know what I mean? Like when you really think about it, it's like from one moment to the next, is anyone happy? Like, just across the board, or is
Yeah.
it something that fluctuates in life, you know? So,
Yeah.
every now and then you get asked something like that, and it's like, I don't know. I'm satisfied with this particular cut of steak,
Yeah.
but you're talking about I could be happier, that kind of thing. It's just like, I don't know. To me, life is life is more about being content, you know.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, but it can be annoying. But I'm sure there are more annoying questions people can ask, but that's just
Mhm.
one that you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think oh, how's everything going? Says Steve. That's a bad one. No,
Hmm.
only ask that question if you're prepared for the answer, but I think that those ones are kind of like small talk. Like you don't people don't really want to know the answer to, hey, what's up? It's like, well, I just
I'll tell
stumbled
you
it.
one question. I
Mhm.
wish that I got asked more.
Okay.
Um, is that Mark with a C or Mark with a K? If you can go your whole life and people just assume you're MARK, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll know that struggle. I imagine if you're Kathy, it might be the same. You know what I mean? Like people
Hmm.
are going to assume you're either Kathy with a K or Kathy with a C. You know,
Yeah.
but my whole life, I don't think I've said anything in my life more than no. That's Mark with a C. You know what I mean? So that's
Oh,
actually where the title comes from. And I think most people know that, but you'd be surprised how many people were confused about that when I first made my channel. Because number one, the whole thing is the gospel according to Mark with a C, because of course the Bible is Mark with a K.
hmm.
So I was named Mark with a C, so I just said, well, that's his gospel. My life is my gospel, so this is the gospel according to Mark with a C. You know what I mean?
No, that's awesome. I don't know if I've ever heard you quite explain it like that, but no, that's Mark with the C and I am he or whatever you say at the beginning of your streams.
Gospel
Or
according to Mark with a C, he is I and I am he. Just taking some time to tell you exactly what's on my mind.
there you go. Yeah, nice. Oh gosh, big old it's Mark with a C, so it's spelled Kark. No. Oh
I
no.
can't win.
Yeah, no, you can't. No, that's
Mhm.
clever. Well, and those are our 7 questions. So, let's see. Stephen, I hear you, Mark. I've been called Stephen with a V instead of Stefan my whole life. Stopped correcting in elementary school. Yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
That's wild. And like I said, for people who haven't been through it, they don't even think about that. But that could be grating on your life. It could be traumatic You know what I mean? You keep spelling my name wrong again. Doesn't it matter who I am? You know what I mean? But for most people, are just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. Am
You
I
know,
a joke to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Mark. Gosh, Mark, this has been this has been a really great conversation. I mean, wow, we've really covered the gamut. I mean, we're only 3 hours into our pub crawl, so technically we're hypothetically on our third drink, alcoholic drink. But so I don't know if my drinks so far have really just been Diet Cokes. But if we were doing a a pretend pub crawl, that's what we would be doing. And it's about the hour 9. So, oh my gosh, that's my
You know
cat.
what
So
though?
think,
I realized just real quick, because the answer to that question about the $1 million thing, I think I would buy some pubs, because you know what I realized before I got onto in here, because you were asking me about pubs. There are no pubs in the hood. You know what I mean? There's no pubs.
you're right.
There's a lot of liquor stores, but you know, if you go into your average, you know, hood around America, whatever the case may be, there's no pubs. So maybe there's a market for pubs in the hood. So if
Oh,
I had $1 million, there you go. There
and
you
you
go.
just had your title, Pub in the Hood. I mean, well, because the thing about pubs are, I mean, you will find them in England in the hood, if you will, in the English version of that. And it's where people gather, where they all go and watch sports stuff together. They watch soccer together, you know, and
Right.
oh my
You
gosh,
know what I
you heard
mean?
it here first.
Yeah. I mean, it could cut down on a lot of stuff, you know, to have like a nice watering hole to go to, and people just, you know, kick back, go to a place where everybody knows your name.
Oh,
It's a good
damn
thing.
right. There we go.
Mhm.
Oh, Fletcher Williams, Mark with a pub.
There you go. Fletch.
This is crazy. We always come
It
up with
just,
the best things.
yeah, you know what I mean? It just comes rolling in. Sweet
Like buy a
inspiration.
lottery ticket. Oh, we can muse love the show. Well, thank you. Yeah, and they will be coming. All right. Well,
Mhm.
where can we find you, Mark? I think we've already said so, but let's say it one more time. Oh, excuse me.
Yes. The channel is called Mark with a C. I'm also on Rumble, but on Rumble, I'm under The Gospel. You know, that's something that I have to fix, you know, because people are kind of confused who are trying to find me on Rumble. They're looking under Mark with a C, but it's The Gospel. But I'm going to do something about that. But here on YouTube, where they don't like to send out my notices to people, and they like to stifle me, I know what you're afraid of, YouTube, but I'm not going anywhere. All right, we're just going to keep on pushing through, baby. But Mark with a C, come on by the channel. I talk about everything that is pop culture. I talk about a lot of pop culture in the context of social issues as well. So you might think that you've heard these topics on somebody else's channel, but no one is doing it quite like me, the way I will do it. So, you know, you come on by and get my take on things, and also give me your take on things, because I do value that, you know. And there it is. You know, I'd like to get into streaming. You know, Teresa here is my hero right now, because this is a great format that you have, you know, and I'm learning by watching, you know, like certain people and everything. So when it comes time for me and I have more time, because as you can see with my son coming in here, it's kind of hard to do, you know, but when I do have some more time and everything, I would love to get into it. And I'd love to have this give and take. So come on by the channel and help me grow.
Oh, there you go. Yes, please do, everybody. And thank you. Thank you for your kind words. You are kind of right about the notifications. I usually tell from your Twitter, you put out something on Twitter when there's a new video, because often it doesn't. But yeah, you will not be disappointed by videos. And I really look forward to the day that you live stream. That'll be awesome.
It's going to be a problem. I can tell you that.
Oh boy. Well,
yeah.
And I think I've already mentioned to make sure that you're subbed to Fatal J and all the Dark Council, all 5 of them, 6 of them. You got quite a gang over there.
Big shout out to Abu Nas, Fatal J, Damajanai, Lord Callis, Lorena Creole, of course, the magnificent Drunk 3PO. We all come together, and we're a family, you know, just like everybody here. You know, we all are part of this collective consciousness, and we can all learn something. We are what they're afraid of, you know, to be able to talk and to cross our experiences the way that we do and everything. this is exactly what they're afraid of. So just keep it going, guys. Keep it going, and support Teresa and everything that she's doing too.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And of course, you can find me here in Miss Marc Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. I'm going to be doing a review of the new Conan comic, which I'm very excited about. Do Conan the Barbarian, and it was, well, spoiler alert, I loved it. Also find me on Untamed Mando, where we will be discussing the Prince Caspian and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader this Saturday morning. And our next pub crawl is next Monday afternoon with none other than My Nerdy Home. So please make sure you're subscribed and have that bell hit for our topic yet to be determined. So, thank
did I
you.
say Demogeny? I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Saying all except Demogeny. If I left out Demogeny, that's like, no, Demogeny is my brother. I love Demogeny.
Oh, I was gonna say no. Yeah, yes, we endorse Demogeny here at Miss Marc Muses. So. Oh gosh, thank you to everyone. You said him. Oh, Corny Bagels, you said him. Okay, so.
Okay, cool.
Oh well, we love you, Demogeny. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to pay attention to pop culture and make it bright.